Hello and welcome to Food Stamps Now. I am Kwame, and today I'm going to be talking about the possible government shutdown and what it means for food stamp benefits, both in your benefits being delivered on time and future benefits being available, because there's a lot of talk about cutting food stamps, cutting WIC, and all the other benefits that people who really need them the most depend on, that tend to be the first thing that Congress wants to cut when they get into these budget negotiations. So today I want to take the time. I have done all the research so you don't have to, and I want to bring you all the latest information about what looks like a possible government shutdown at the end of the month and what it's going to mean for your benefits. I am going to talk about the main issues at stake. What is causing this shutdown to happen? What are the issues that they are fighting about that is leading to the shutdown? How is that going to impact your benefits? And I've researched this from some of the leading news organizations who have the latest information from the government sources about what could possibly happen to your benefits. And then I'm also going to talk about the possibility of it happening and how you can prepare for it. So, if you are new to this channel, I want to urge you to subscribe to our channel, because this entire Food Stamps Now channel is dedicated to bringing you the latest information about anything that may affect your benefits, whether it's food stamps or EBT, both positively and negatively. And we know there's a lot of things happening in and out of Congress these days about food stamps and possible cuts to benefits. So we want you to be the first to know. So hit that subscribe button. So let's get right into it. What is the shutdown about? Why are they trying to shut down the government again? I think, a lot of you will probably agree with this and feel the same way. Haven't we been through this already a few months ago, and now we're back at it again? Well, let me explain what is happening. So let's go to this article from the Brookings Institute and talk about what is the shutdown and why is it even at play? Why are we even talking about a shutdown? Well, so by law, Congress has to pass 12 annual appropriations bills that they need to fund the government. And so they cannot spend a dime until those bills are passed. Now, because we have a divided government, because the Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives, the Democrats are in control of the Senate, and then we have the presidency with the Democrats control, there's a divided government. So first of all, they all have to come to an agreement. So whatever the House passes has to go through the Senate, and they have to agree. And if they don't agree, then there's an impasse, and then they have to figure out what they're going to do. And then the president also has to agree to sign whatever comes out of Congress from both the Senate and the House. If they even agree on something, the president then also has to sign off on that. Right now, because Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives and they have all these things that they want done in terms of spending cuts, which is things that they've wanted to do as soon as they took over Congress. Remember a few months ago, we went through this where they were able to get spending cuts mainly to social programs that affect low-income people, and they were able to get the president to agree to extend the age by which people who are on food stamps that do not have any dependents, which are called the adults without dependents, the requirements were tightened there so that more people will be eligible for that category. And then they try to include work requirements for people who do not, people who have children but who are not working. They try to put a work requirement in there to force you to have to work to continue to get benefits. Those were shut down, but the government was also able to get more benefits for veterans and then for people who are homeless. So now that was then a few months ago, and we all thought this was over, and now we're back at it again. It looks like every time there's a spending negotiation, the Republicans in the House of Representatives are going to use that as an excuse or as a way to get more spending cuts. And it looks like where they want the most cuts to come from is social programs that affect low-income people. So you're going to hear a lot of talk about cutting food stamps, cutting welfare, cutting Medicaid, cutting senior meals, and Head Start and school lunches. It just seems to be the things that they can grab on very easily when it comes to spending cuts. So why is the current impasse? Well, the government is required to pass bills to spend any money. Congress has to pass the bills. It's called their annual appropriation bills. There are 12 bills that they need to pass to fund the government. But if they do not pass the bills in time, then the government has to shut down. And when the government shuts down, it means that government workers that are essential, they are the only ones that can work. That money has been set aside for them to continue to work. They don't get paid immediately. They get paid when the government shutdown ends, but they are allowed to continue to work. And then everybody else is furloughed until the government reopens. Now, sometimes Congress has done what they call continuing resolutions. So continuing resolutions means that they are going to pass a bill to agree to continue to fund the government for a short period of time in place of passing the appropriations bill. They'll pass this continuing resolution bill that allows them to fund the government at the levels that they were funding the government previously. So there's no new increase, there's no new cuts, everything stays the same, and then they fund the government that way, usually for a few months or maybe for a year, because it's a way to kick the can forward without having to deal with the spending specific cuts that come with each appropriation bills. And remember, there are 12 appropriations bills. So that is kind of an overview of what the whole fight is about. You know, understanding why we are where we are is because there's these appropriations bills that need to be passed. And before the Republicans in Congress are going to agree to pass it, they in the House of Representatives want some spending cuts to be made before they will agree for the appropriations bills to be passed. If the appropriations bills are not passed before the end of the month, the government will have shut down. Now, they may pass a continuing resolution bill to kick the can forward, as I mentioned, but that may probably be unlikely given how far the two parties are. And when I mean the two parties, the Republicans in the House of Representatives and then the Democrats' leadership in the Senate and the president. So that is the nature of what is going on right now. Now, what I want to talk about is how does all of this affect benefits, which is the main thing I want to talk about is how does it affect food stamps and how does it affect other benefits that low-income households and individuals depend on. So here I want to go to, CNN, and this is, CNN has talked about a lot of, sections of the public that are going to be affected by this shutdown. So obviously, if the shutdown lasts a long time, it's going to affect the economy. We don't want that. But public health and safety may also be impacted. Arts and culture and outdoors, national parks, for instance, may be impacted. Student loans and education. But where you care the most, housing assistance is down there. But where you care the most is food assistance. So let's talk about that. So as I have highlighted, it says that SNAP benefits, October SNAP benefits will go out. So if the government shuts down at the end of the month, your October food stamp SNAP benefits will hit your EBT card as planned. And that is a quote from the Department of Agriculture. However, beyond that, nobody knows. So because the appropriation bills are what funds the government, including all these programs, so if they don't agree on anything, the last check you will get for SNAP is October, and then we all have to wait and see what happens. They may pass a continuing resolution bill to move things forward and kick the can forward a little bit, but the most that USDA can tell us right now is that your SNAP benefits for October will be paid, and then beyond that, they don't know. Now, another thing that will be hit when it comes to food assistance is WIC. And as you know, WIC stands from Women, Infants, and Children. It's a program that helps prenatal and postnatal women um, to be able to care for themselves and during pregnancy and then for their newborn up to 5 years old. Well, if you're under WIC, the Department of Agriculture is saying that WIC is going to be severely impacted. And also, WIC is one of the things that the Republicans in the House of Representatives wants to cut as part of this spending cuts that they are requesting. So stay tuned to that. So now let's go to another website, which is Business Insider, and what they are saying about the shutdown. And basically, the Biden administration is warning that, as I mentioned, WIC is going to be impacted. And about 7 million mothers and children could be at risk of losing assistance as states are forced to make waiting lists. So pretty much, if the government shutdown goes through, low-income mothers and children might find themselves at risk. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Secretary of Agriculture, is saying in a quote, which I have highlighted here, that SNAP food stamps will be paid in October should there be a shutdown. And then I'm going to read the quote. It says, if the shutdown were to extend longer than that, there will be some serious consequences for SNAP. This is not coming from me. This is coming from the Department of Agriculture and the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. So definitely be aware that if this thing goes on beyond October payment, where November and December payments are going to come during the holidays, nobody knows. Then we move to Politico, which is saying that, as we said earlier, 7 million pregnant and postpartum recipients of food aid could lose their benefits. And, you know, school, there's more to that. We talked about SNAP, we talked about WIC, but now school aid, food assistance to schools, and then, you know, the Head Start program is largely funded also by Congress. All these things are going to be impacted because of a possible shutdown. And then lastly, let's look at NPR. You know, they are saying that because of the impasse to pass these bills, that benefits will be affected. So we have about 4 or 5 different credible news organizations that are reporting stuff from the government about the services that are going to be impacted should the government shut down. So nutrition programs, and I want to read a few things. During an extreme Republican shutdown, women and children who count on WIC will soon start to be turned away at grocery store counters, with federal contingency funding drying up after just a few days and many states left with limited WIC funds to operate. This is a quote from somebody from the White House. You know, and if you break it down, you know, NPR has a breakdown of who is going to be affected. You know, WIC recipients in California, you have 700, almost 1 million people in California are going to be impacted, and they're going to be at risk of losing their benefit. In Texas, there is 786,000. In Florida, there's 421,000. Between these three states alone, between California, Texas, and Florida, WIC beneficiaries that are at risk of losing their benefits total about 2.1 million. That is a lot of people just in 3 states. So you can see the magnitude of the problem and why people are worried. And here there's another quote from the U.S. Agricultural Secretary, Tom Vilsack. He says in Morning Edition on NPR that vast majorities of beneficiaries will see an immediate cutoff of WIC access. For most, it will happen within a matter of days. And depending on how long a potential shutdown lasts, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is food stamps, could also be impacted. It could continue normal through October, but then after that, as I mentioned earlier, nobody knows. So, what does this all mean? Well, if anybody knows, if anybody tells you that they know what's going to happen, I think they're lying. What is really true is that the shutdown looks possible because the latest is that the Republicans in Congress are going to try and pass select appropriations bills, but they have included things in those appropriations bills that Democrats in the Senate and the president are probably not going to agree to. So even if the House of Representatives passes all these appropriations bills that require cuts to specific programs for the low income population that the president cares about or Democrats in the Senate and the House care about, it is likely to go nowhere once it hits the Senate. So even if the Republicans pass all these bills, nothing is going to happen if the Democrats in the Senate don't agree with it or if the president doesn't agree. So we're back to square one. So unless some miracle happens where some last minute negotiation happens between today and the end of the month, and they're able to come to a compromise and pass appropriations bills to fund the government beyond the end of the month, or they are able to pass a continuing resolution to kick the can forward for a little bit, then it all looks like there is going to be a shutdown. Now, given how far the parties are apart regarding what the Republicans in Congress want and what the White House, the president, and the Senate, the Democrats in the Senate are going to agree to, it doesn't look like there's going to be an agreement anytime soon. Now, why is September 30th important date? Well, the government operates on a fiscal year that starts October 1st. That's why your SNAP increase starts in October 1st, because the government fiscal year cycle ends September 30th. So any appropriations bills to fund the government for the next fiscal year have to begin in October 1st. But they have waited this long and have done nothing and have not passed the appropriate bills. And so now we are here at the last minute, and it doesn't look like an agreement is going to be possible. And so unless something changes between today, which is Tuesday, September 26th, and September 30th, it looks like we're headed for a government shutdown. How long that government shutdown will last depends on a lot of factors. Depends on whether somebody's bluff is going to be called or whether the Republicans in Congress are going to dig in and prolong it. So that is, in essence, what is happening with the government shutdown. And we will stay on top of this and bring you an update probably on Thursday, the 28th, to give you our best guess and what we're reading and what we're seeing about what is going to happen over the weekend and how it's going to impact your benefit and whether there's a likelihood that there'll be an agreement to avert a shutdown, because a shutdown, as I've explained, is going to have a lot of bad consequences, especially for people on low income who need benefits that Congress is trying to cut. So that is all I have for today. I'll keep you posted on Thursday. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so that when I release my video on Thursday, you will be the first to know. I appreciate you guys. And until the next time, thank you for watching.